Have you ever felt the weight of walls that no one else can see? A silent cage built from doubts, fears, and the echo of voices telling you what you can't be. Today, I want you to imagine those invisible bars and then imagine your hand reaching out, cracking them open, because the truth is this: the only cage strong enough to hold you is the one you accept. And today, right now, you choose to break the cage. When I talk about recognizing your cage, I'm talking about that quiet moment when the world feels loud, but you can still hear your own heartbeat arguing with your own doubt. I'm talking about standing in front of yourself with no noise, no spotlight, no applause, just you and the truth you've been avoiding. See, the cage doesn't always look like metal or chains. Sometimes it looks like the version of yourself you settled for. Sometimes it looks like the voice in your head saying, stay small, stay safe, don't try, don't fail. And the wildest part, most of the time, you didn't even build that cage. You just grew up inside it. People hand you bars without asking. Teachers, family, friends, strangers, society, they hand you bars shaped like labels, expectations, mistakes you made years ago. And without noticing, you start holding them close, thinking they belong to you. That's the first lie the cage tells you. It makes you believe the walls are a part of who you are. But they're not. They're just stories you've outgrown. And the moment you finally see the cage, really see it, something shifts. You start questioning everything you've been living under. You start asking, why am I still carrying this? Who told me I had to be afraid? Who taught me to dim the light I was born with? You start remembering that you came into this world screaming unashamed, alive, fearless. You didn't arrive whispering. You didn't arrive apologizing. That was taught, not chosen. And let me tell you something, recognizing your cage is not weak. It's revolutionary. It's the first crack in the armor you thought was protecting you, but was really suffocating you. It's the moment you stop pretending you're fine and admit you want more. That honesty is powerful, because when you see the bars, you can finally choose which ones you're done carrying. Sometimes the cage is comfort. Sometimes the cage is routine. Sometimes the cage is the success that everyone praises but doesn't feel like success to you. It's the version of life that feels good from the outside but feels too small from the inside. And it takes courage to admit that. It takes courage to say, this isn't enough for me anymore. People will call it crazy. They always do. But breaking the cage means choosing truth over approval, growth over comfort, destiny over expectations. And look, recognizing your cage hurts. It forces you to confront the places where you betrayed yourself just to keep the peace, the times you told your dreams to wait, the moments you played low because shining high felt dangerous. It forces you to admit that the biggest walls weren't built by enemies. They were built by fear. But once you see it, once you admit it, once you say it out loud, the cage loses its power. It can't hide in the dark anymore. And that's when the fire starts building. That's when something inside you says, I've been quiet long enough. You start reclaiming pieces of yourself you forgot you had. Your imagination, your confidence, your weirdness, your brilliance, your voice. You start remembering that you were designed for possibility, not confinement, built for expansion, not limitation, made for movement, not stagnation. Recognizing your cage is the beginning of everything. It's the moment you stop accepting walls as destiny. It's the moment you stop mistaking safety for purpose. It's the moment you look at yourself, not the world, not the audience, not the expectations, and say with your whole chest, I'm not living in this cage another day. When I say freedom starts in the mind, I'm not talking about some cliche phrase people throw around like it's decoration. I'm talking about the battlefield you wake up in every single day, the one nobody else sees, the one nobody else can fight for you. Your mind is the architect of your reality, the engine of your ambition, the filter between who you are and who you could be. And if that mind is locked in fear, doubt, old narratives, or inherited limitations, then no amount of outer success will ever feel like freedom. You can live in a mansion and still be trapped. You can have applause, but still hear silence inside. You can be surrounded by opportunity and still feel stuck behind invisible walls. The real revolution begins when you understand that the cages built around you have no power unless they're also built inside you. That's where it all starts. That's where you decide whether you're going to be free or stay stuck repeating the same old patterns. You've got to learn how to challenge the thoughts that try to run your life. Those thoughts that whisper, you can't. You shouldn't. You're not enough. They act like they're protecting you, but really they're the guards standing in front of the open door, convincing you the world outside is too dangerous to step into. But the truth, most limits disappear the moment you stop believing them. The moment you stop letting fear dress itself up as wisdom. The moment you stop letting old mistakes disguise themselves as destiny. The mind will replay every failure you've ever had if you let it, like it's trying to prove a point. But what about the wins? What about the strength? What about the moments you survived what you didn't think you could survive? Why doesn't the mind replay as that? Because freedom requires intention. It requires choosing what thoughts you feed and what thoughts you starve. And yes, it takes work, real work, the kind of work people don't post about because it doesn't look glamorous. Rewiring your thinking feels uncomfortable. It feels messy. It feels like you're fighting a war with an opponent who knows every weakness you've ever had because that opponent is you. But once you start winning those internal battles, even small ones, you realize the cage was never locked. It was only defended by the stories you kept repeating. And sometimes the mind traps itself in the past. You replay things that broke you, things that embarrassed you, things that made you question yourself. But freedom means reminding your mind that the past is an archive, not a prophecy. It's a place you can visit for understanding, but you can't live there. You're not the same person you were back then. You're wiser, stronger, louder, clearer, and you deserve thoughts that reflect who you're becoming, not who you were forced to be. The most powerful thing you can ever do is teach your mind to become an ally instead of an enemy, to speak to yourself like someone worth fighting for, to imagine possibilities bigger than your environment, to trust your gut even when your fear tries to negotiate its way back into control. That's when freedom stops being a dream and becomes a decision, a practice, a lifestyle. Because once your mind is free, the world can't cage you. Nobody can trap you in a role you've outgrown. Nobody can shrink your vision down to their level of comfort. Nobody can stop you from creating, expanding, rising, transforming. When the mind is unlocked, life becomes a canvas instead of a prison. Assert your freedom begins the moment you decide your thoughts will no longer betray your future. When I tell you to rewrite the story you've been told, I'm talking about taking back authorship of your life. I'm talking about looking at the script that was handed to you, sometimes before you could even speak, and realizing you never agreed to any of it. You didn't choose the limits people placed on you. You didn't choose the moments where they told you who you were supposed to be. You didn't choose the labels, the doubts, the assumptions. Those were written by people who couldn't see the whole version of you. And for too long, you let a story somebody else drafted become the story you lived inside. But here's the truth they never want you to notice. Every story can be edited. Every story can be rewritten. You're not stuck with the narrative you inherited. You get to change the tone, the chapters, the direction. You get to decide which parts were just the introduction and which parts deserve to shape the rest of your journey. But to do that, you have to be brave enough to face the story you've been following, the one you've been reciting in your own head like a script you learned too well. The story that says you're too late, too flawed, too damaged, too different, too complicated. You've got to stop believing that story just because it's familiar. Familiar doesn't mean true. Familiar just means repeated. And repeated stories become cages when you forget you were ever allowed to challenge them. So ask yourself whose voice is running the narrative. Who told you what your limits were? Who convinced you that the best parts of you were too much or not enough? Because once you identify the voice, you can turn down the volume. Once you see the script, you can start to rewrite it. And rewriting your story doesn't mean pretending the painful chapters never happened. It means giving them new meaning. It means recognizing that every heartbreak, every mistake, every failure wasn't a stop sign. It was a plot twist. It wasn't meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. It toughened your skin, sharpened your vision, taught you resilience you couldn't have learned any other way. Those chapters didn't break you, they prepared you. But if you never rewrite the story, you'll always interpret them as proof you weren't enough instead of evidence that you're unstoppable. Sometimes the story you need to rewrite isn't about your past, it's about your destiny. People will try to hand you a small story because they can't imagine the size of the one you're meant to live. They'll project their fears onto your dreams. They'll try to frame your life inside their own limitations. And if you're not careful, you'll start trimming your ambition to fit their comfort zone. You'll shrink your dreams down to what they can handle. But rewriting your story means refusing to let someone else's imagination limit your reality. It means telling yourself a new truth, that you can start again, that you can want more, that you can change directions, that you can grow beyond everything you thought was possible. It means claiming the pen with both hands and saying, this chapter is mine, because the moment you decide to rewrite your story is the moment you break loyalty to the version of yourself that was only surviving. You start becoming the version that's meant to thrive. So let the world talk. Let people watch. Let the old story shake as you pull it apart. You're not here to repeat the narrative you inherited. You're here to write the one you were born for. You are the author now. So write something fearless. Let me take you somewhere real for a moment, somewhere raw. Picture this. You're standing in the center of your own life, full of ideas, full of fire, full of the kind of energy that could shake the ground, and all of a sudden, 100 eyes turn toward you, some curious, some confused, some waiting for you to mess up. And right there, in that moment, something inside you hesitates, not because you don't believe in what you're capable of, but because you're worried about how you'll look doing it. You start shrinking, folding yourself into shapes that feel safer. You trade authenticity for approval. You trade boldness for silence. You trade brilliance for invisibility. And the saddest part, you don't even realize you're doing it because the fear of judgment is that powerful. But here's what no one tells you while you're busy trying to keep everyone comfortable. Judgment is inevitable. People will talk no matter what you do. If you rise, if you fall, if you try, if you quit, if you stay quiet, if you go loud, they will always have something to say because judging is easier than creating, easier than growing, easier than owning their own insecurities. And once you really understand that, something inside you starts to loosen, something heavy falls off your shoulders. You begin to see that the fear of judgment was never protecting you. It was just another cage disguised as caution. The truth is, every time you silence yourself to avoid criticism, you betray the part of you that was built for impact. You suffocate your own potential trying to impress people who aren't even paying attention to their own lives. You sabotage your own greatness trying to fit a mold you were never meant to squeeze into. That's not humility, that's self-abandonment. And you deserve better than that. Think about the people you admire, the ones whose names echo long after the moment has passed. They weren't safe. They weren't quiet. They weren't trying to mirror the crowd. They took risks. They stood out. They made choices people didn't understand at the time. And that misunderstanding, that judgment, that criticism, it didn't stop them. If anything, it fueled them. They realized early that you can't live a big life while staying small enough for everyone to feel comfortable around you. You've got to reach a point where you stop handing out backstage passes to people who've never stepped on a stage. You've got to understand that some folks are not qualified to comment on your journey because they've never dared to take their own. They're watching you from the safety of the stands, throwing opinions you're not obligated to catch. And when you free yourself from the need to be universally liked, you suddenly unlock a new power, one that's pure, unfiltered, and unstoppable. Let them misunderstand you, let them doubt you, let them whisper, let them question, because while they're busy talking, you're busy transforming. While they're analyzing you, you're rewriting your future. While they're watching, you're growing in ways they'll never see coming. That's the beauty of breaking this cage. Once you stop fearing judgment, you stop holding back, you move differently, you speak differently, you dream differently, you become someone even you didn't know you could become. And that kind of freedom, it's contagious. It inspires. It cracks open possibilities that once felt too far away to touch. So let the world say what it wants. They don't get to define you. They don't get to limit you. They don't get to mute what was born to be loud. You owe your life to your purpose, not their opinions. You ever notice how failure feels like a punch you never saw coming? One minute you're confident, moving with purpose, and the next you're staring at the ground wondering how everything slipped through your fingers. And for a moment, maybe longer than a moment, you start questioning yourself, your talent, your path, your worth. It's wild how one misstep can make you forget every step you took before it. But that's the trick failure plays. It tries to disguise itself as a final verdict when really it's just feedback, it's information, it's direction. It's a doorway wearing the mask of a dead end, but most people don't see that. They take failure personally. They attach it to their identity like a badge they never meant to earn. They replay the embarrassment, the disappointment, the I should have known better, instead of asking the real question, what is this trying to show me? Because failure doesn't come to punish you. It comes to prepare you, strengthen you, strip away the parts of you that were never going to make it to the next level. Think about this. Every breakthrough you've ever had came after a moment that almost broke you. Every big idea you ever created came after something didn't go the way you planned. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in discomfort, in mess, in chaos, in trying something that doesn't land the way you wanted it to. That's the universe pushing you forward. That's the story bending in your favor even when it doesn't look like it. And the thing about failing forward is that you have to be willing to fall without giving up. You have to be willing to look at your mistakes without letting them define you. You have to be willing to say, all right, that didn't work, so what's next? It's not about pretending the pain didn't hurt. It's about refusing to let it stop the motion. Because the moment you stop moving, the cage closes itself again. People who win consistently aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to stay down. They learn, they adapt, they adjust their strategy. They take the embarrassment and turn it into fuel. They turn rejection into redirection. They turn obstacles into architecture. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's the blueprint for it. And listen, sometimes the failure isn't even about you. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes you weren't meant to enter that door because something bigger is waiting behind another one. But if you get stuck staring at the one that closed, you'll miss the one that's opening quietly right behind you. That's why failing forward matters. Forward means you don't freeze. Forward means you don't retreat. Forward means you don't shrink into shame. Forward means you move with resilience, even if you're still hurting. The people who never break their cage are the ones who try to avoid failure completely. They play it safe. They stay small. They stay predictable. But people who rise understand that falling is part of flying. They know the ground is only dangerous if you decide to stay there. So let the world see you fall. Let them whisper. Let them point. None of that matters. What matters is that you get up with a new lesson, a sharper vision, a tougher spirit, and a deeper understanding of who you're becoming. Every failure is a stepping stone carved specifically for your path. Every setback is sculpting you into someone stronger than you were yesterday. Hazard, your power grows every time you rise from a place you once thought would break you. There's a moment you reach in life where you start paying attention, not just to what you're doing, but to who's standing around you while you're doing it. You start realizing that energy is contagious. Vision is contagious. Fear is contagious. Doubt is contagious. And whether you like it or not, the people closest to you are either watering your spirit or draining it. They're either helping you climb out of the cage or tightening the lock without even knowing it. Every dream you carry needs the right environment to breathe. You can have the most powerful idea in the world, but if you surround yourself with people who only see limits, your fire starts flickering. You say you want to build something big, and they remind you of everything that could go wrong. You talk about your plans, and they hit you with skepticism disguised as realism. It's not that they're evil, it's that they're small thinkers, and small thinkers panic when they meet someone who wants to live large. You've probably experienced this. You share a dream that makes your chest feel alive, and someone laughs or shrugs or dismisses it with a comment that stings a little more than you want to admit. You walk away from that conversation feeling smaller, heavier, unsure. That's because you just tried to plant a seed in the wrong soil. Certain dreams can't grow everywhere. Certain parts of you can't survive everywhere. And the toughest lesson is accepting that not everyone who started with you is meant to evolve with you. But then there are those rare, powerful people, the ones who hear your ambition and don't flinch, the ones who don't get intimidated by your light, the ones who push you, challenge you, ask you questions that expand your mind instead of shrinking it. These are the freedom makers. These are the people who see the bigger version of you even when you're doubting it yourself. They're not always loud about it either. Sometimes their presence alone lifts you. Their belief in you activates something inside you that you forgot was even there. You need people who clap for you even when they're still working on their own breakthroughs. You need people who aren't threatened by your growth. You need people who aren't afraid to tell you the truth, not to tear you down, but to sharpen you. The right people feed your confidence. They make you feel courageous. They remind you of your power when your own reflection feels blurry. And here's the other side of this. You have to become that person too. You can't expect a powerful circle if you're showing up with weak energy. You can't ask for loyalty if you're carrying envy. You can't demand support if you're too insecure to celebrate others. A strong circle isn't something you find, it's something you help build. It's a mirror. It reflects who you are, what you value, what you tolerate, what you attract. When you grow, your relationships will shift. That's natural. Some people will fall away because your elevation exposes the places where they stayed comfortable. Some will distance themselves because your courage shines a light on their fear. Some will simply not understand your path, and that's okay. You're not abandoning them, you're choosing your freedom. But the beautiful part is this: once you align with the right people, your evolution accelerates, ideas become clearer, opportunities come faster, your confidence multiplies, your world expands. Because now you're not fighting the cage alone. You've got people holding the door open with you. Surround yourself with those who fuel your flight, not those who fear it. Your circle should expand your wings, not measure their size. There's a certain weight we carry without even realizing it, an invisible heaviness that sits on our chest, slows our steps, and steals our clarity. It's the weight of old hurt, the weight of memories we never asked for, the weight of words that cut deeper than they should have. And we walk around pretending we're fine, pretending we moved on, pretending the past is over while it's still living in us, shaping our choices, tightening the cage from the inside. Yeah. Forgiveness isn't something people like talking about because it sounds soft, almost like you're letting someone off the hook. But real forgiveness, it's not weakness. It's not surrender. It's liberation. It's taking the key out of someone else's hand and putting it back in your own. It's choosing to reclaim the parts of you that got stuck in moments that hurt too much to revisit. That's the thing. Unforgiveness is a time machine that traps you in the worst versions of yourself, replaying scenes that were never meant to define your future. Some of us are holding on to things that happened years ago, things that we don't talk about out loud, but they still speak inside us. They whisper doubts when we're trying to step into something new. They replay moments where we felt small, betrayed, unseen, or unprotected. And the longer we carry that, the heavier it becomes. It shows up in our relationships, in our decisions, in our fears, in the way we guard ourselves from love, opportunity, and risk. We think we're protecting ourselves, but really we're imprisoning ourselves with memories that no longer deserve the power we've given them. Forgiveness is not about saying what happened was okay. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's not about inviting people back into your life. No, forgiveness is about separating yourself from the wound so it stops bleeding into everything you're trying to build. It's choosing to heal, even if the person who hurt you never apologizes, never understands, never acknowledges what they did. It's choosing to honor your future more than your pain. And sometimes this is the hardest part. The person you need to forgive isn't someone else, it's you. It's the version of yourself that stayed when you should have left. The version that didn't speak up, the version that didn't know better, the version that tried and failed, the version that trusted the wrong people. We hold ourselves hostage for things we've outgrown, and we judge ourselves with a harshness we would never use on someone we love. But growth requires compassion. You can't demand evolution from a self you refuse to forgive. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without reliving. It means looking at the past and saying, you shaped me, but you don't own me. It means closing the chapter without dragging it into every new page. It means freeing up space in your heart for the dreams you haven't even imagined yet. And the miracle is this: once you release the weight, you rise. Your mind gets clearer, your voice gets stronger, your steps get lighter, your vision expands. You start making decisions from a place of possibility instead of protection. You start creating instead of surviving. You stop living in reaction to what hurt you and start living in alignment with what heals you. Forgiveness is not an act of kindness toward the past. It's an act of courage toward your future. You deserve to move forward unchained. There's a moment in every person's life when the dream they really want to chase feels too big to say out loud. Not because they don't believe in it, but because they're afraid of how unreal it sounds. Afraid it'll make them look delusional. Afraid that aiming higher than the world expects will expose them. But here's the truth. Every dream that changed the world sounded impossible before it existed. Every idea that shifted culture started as something that made people raise their eyebrows, and the people who dared to dream beyond the limits were the ones who built a reality the world eventually had no choice but to accept. See, dreaming small is the safest cage of all. It's clean, comfortable, predictable. You don't risk embarrassment there. You don't risk failure. You don't risk rejection. But you also don't risk greatness. You don't risk evolution. You don't risk discovering a version of yourself capable of things you never imagined. Safe dreams keep you sheltered. Big dreams make you bold. Impossible dreams make you unstoppable. A dream is only too big when you're seeing it through the eyes of fear. When you look at it through the lens of possibility, it becomes a calling, a direction, a blueprint for your potential. Some people spend their whole lives trying to compress their ambition into what feels reasonable. They try to shrink their vision to fit into the expectations of their environment. They hide their imagination because they don't want to be the one who stands out. But standing out is the whole point. A dream without risk is just a wish. A dream without discomfort is just a fantasy. If your dream doesn't stretch you, it won't change you. If it doesn't make you question your own strength, it won't reveal your true strength. And if it doesn't scare you just a little, it's not the one you're meant to chase. Fear is not a sign to turn around. It's a sign that you're stepping into territory you've never accessed before. That's where the magic is. That's where you start to evolve, to innovate, to break boundaries you didn't even know were there. And let's be real, people will judge you for dreaming big because it exposes their decision to dream small. They'll project their limits onto your vision. They'll tell you to be more realistic, more practical, more grounded, more is normal, but normal never built anything worth remembering. Practical never made history. Realistic never changed a generation. You don't need permission to dream beyond what others can comprehend. You just need courage to hold on to the vision even when you're the only one who sees it. There's something powerful about allowing your imagination to run unapologetically wild. It gives you direction in moments when life feels chaotic. It gives you something to build toward when everything else feels uncertain. It becomes a lighthouse for your purpose, reminding you who you're becoming, even on the days you don't feel like you're enough. Your dream is not random. It's a preview of what you're capable of. It's the future trying to introduce itself before you're ready to claim it. And you don't have to know the how right away. Big dreams rarely come with instructions. They come with a feeling, a pull inside your chest that won't leave you alone. A sense that you're meant for something more. Follow that feeling. Nurture it. Protect it. Let it stretch you beyond the limits you inherited. Let it challenge every belief that told you to stay small, because the moment you dare to dream beyond the possible, you start unlocking a version of yourself the world hasn't met yet, a version that refuses to live life inside the lines, a version that understands that imagination is the first step toward freedom. Yeah, your dream becomes real the moment you stop asking for permission to believe in it. There's a point you reach where thinking, planning, analyzing, visualizing, it all stops mattering unless you take that one real step. That's the step that changes everything, the step that separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the movers, the people who want transformation from the ones who actually experience it. And it doesn't have to be dramatic or perfect or impressive. Sometimes the smallest step carries the most power because it represents a shift inside you, something waking up, something refusing to stay stuck, something saying, I'm not letting my life be decided by fear anymore. Say, most people get trapped in waiting mode, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for the right time, the right support, the right sign, the right version of themselves. They keep waiting until waiting becomes their cage. But progress doesn't come from certainty. It comes from motion. Confidence doesn't appear before the action, it appears because of the action. That first step is the spark, the ignition, the proof to yourself that you're willing to move even when everything in you is shaking. One step can feel small, but energetically it's massive. It breaks the paralysis. It disrupts the pattern of hesitation. It puts pressure on the universe to respond. It tells your fear, you don't get to run this show anymore. And once you take that step, something inside you shifts. You start realizing that the walls weren't as tall as they seemed. The lock's not as strong. The doubt's not as accurate. The cage feels different because you're different. People think they need a masterpiece plan to begin, but truthfully, you only need direction and courage. You don't have to know the ending before you take the beginning. You don't need the whole staircase visible. You just need the next stair. That's it. And the moment you step onto momentum takes over, momentum is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It builds on itself. It grows. It expands. It carries you places your fear told you you'd never reach. And here's another truth most don't want to admit. The first step is often the ugliest one. It's shaky, it's awkward, it's uncertain. You might stumble, mess up, get it wrong. But that's normal, that's necessary, that's human. No great journey begins with grace. It begins with courage. People who succeed aren't perfect. They're persistent. They fall forward. They adjust. They refine, but they do not stay frozen. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll wait forever. If you're waiting for everyone to approve, you'll never move. If you're waiting for the fear to disappear, you'll wait in a cage that keeps getting smaller every year. Action is freedom. Movement is oxygen. Motion is the antidote to doubt. The moment you move, your power returns. You don't need to leap across a mountain today. You don't need to reinvent your whole life overnight. You just need to honor the next brave move. That might mean making the call, writing the idea down, leaving the environment that's suffocating you, applying for the opportunity, starting the habit, ending the cycle, declaring the truth, doing the thing you promised yourself you'd do months ago. Whatever that step is for you, don't underestimate it. One step can change your trajectory. One step can realign your destiny. One step can introduce you to a version of yourself you didn't even know was possible. You're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you haven't started. Your next level begins the moment you move. There comes a moment when you have to stop negotiating with your own potential. You've already felt it, the pulse inside you that says there's more waiting, more possible, more greatness lying dormant in your hands if only you'd claim it. And here's the truth that nobody wants to make easy. The cage you've been living in was never locked from the outside. The lock has been inside your mind. The barrier has been your fear, your doubt, your hesitation, your what ifs. And the hardest, most liberating step is realizing that the only person standing between you and freedom is you. So many people talk about change like it's external, like it depends on someone else giving permission, like it relies on luck or timing. But real transformation is internal. Real freedom comes when you decide to take responsibility for your own evolution. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when someone else validates your dreams. Right now, you are the key maker, the door opener, the architect of your own life. And once you accept that everything shifts, there's a fire that comes with claiming your power. It's not loud at first, but it's relentless. It doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't wait for recognition. It doesn't shrink to fit anyone else's expectations. It grows quietly, persistently, even through the noise of the world. And when you tap into that fire, you start seeing opportunities you never noticed. You start recognizing limits you imposed on yourself, and you start dismantling them one by one. That fire is the energy of your own liberation. Living fully, breaking free, it's not about perfection, it's about courage. It's about refusing to live life in the margins when the whole space is yours to occupy. It's about speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It's about moving toward your purpose even when the path is unclear. And most importantly, it's about persistence, showing up for yourself over and over, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when nobody else believes what you believe. Every choice you make now, every action, every risk, every decision to push forward is carving the door wider. Each step forward creates momentum that compounds. Each act of bravery, each declaration of intent, each refusal to settle for less is a brick removed from the cage. The small daily victories, sticking to your vision, resisting the voice of fear, choosing love over resentment, creation over stagnation, are what build liberation over time. And here's the most powerful part. Once you start living like the cage is already broken, the world starts responding differently. People see you in a new light. Opportunities align, doors open where you never imagined. But it all starts with the decision to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing for your ambition, to stop giving energy to things that don't serve your elevation. Freedom doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who take it. The cage has been a story you told yourself long enough. It's time to rewrite it. It's time to stop doubting, stop hiding. Stop lowering the bar for what you believe you deserve. You have everything inside you to step into the life you've been dreaming of, to claim the power you've been holding back, to be the person you were always meant to become. This is the moment when hesitation ends and action begins, when fear dissolves under the weight of determination, when you finally recognize that you are the only thing standing between you and your liberation. Boss, break the cage, step fully into your power, as you were not born to shrink, to hide, or to bow beneath the weight of invisible chains. You were born to rise, to roar, and to reshape the world with your courage. So take a breath, feel the strength in your heart, and remember this: the cage was never stronger than you. It was only waiting for the moment you decided to break it, and that moment is now.